With Lincoln Riley and Gary Patterson gone, let's check out our Big 12 coaches rankings for 2022 right here at the Voice of College Football. Best discussion, debate, and analysis because of your support and your contributions. So please like the video, share the videos out on social media, and subscribe. Let's go. 10 coaches in the Big 12. Let's run them down. Starting with number 10, Joey McGuire's never been a head coach. He is now one at Texas Tech. It seemed a bit curious on the surface that Matt Wells was let go after a 5-2 start. Then he had just lost a 1-point decision to a pretty respectable Kansas State team, 25-24, was let go at 5-3. If you look at the big picture, you can understand why Texas Tech parted ways with Matt Wells. It just was not working out. Joey McGuire was most notably and most recently assistant head coach and in charge of the linebackers at Baylor. How in the world did he get this job? Well, we'll see if he's up to the task. At Texas Tech, Mike Leach set the standard. Just think about the Red Raiders now finishing in the top 25. That would be a major accomplishment at Texas Tech. Mike Leach did that 5 of his last 6 seasons in Lubbock. Tommy Tuberville, Cliff Kingsbury, and certainly Matt Wells could not reach anywhere close to that standard. Now it's up to Joey McGuire. Number 10 for right now, but maybe he makes a big splash in 2022. At number 9, we go to Lance Leipold, who has the toughest job in major college football, winning at Kansas. It's not been done in a big way since 2007, of course. It's hard to believe right now that Kansas was in the running for a national championship 15 years ago. And within 2 or 3 years, they were abysmal. And that's continued on and on and on and on. And the latest debacle involved not a young, aspiring, up-and-coming head coach looking to rebuild a program from the ground up, but an old and tired out and outdated and beleaguered and less than of the utmost character, Les Miles, bowing out at Kansas. So the Les Miles experiment is over and was a disaster. Now it's up to Lance Leipold, coming in from Buffalo, where he did a pretty outstanding job there. He went 2-10 his first season at KU, but, man, they played Oklahoma tough, TCU, and West Virginia. They also, of course, beat Texas. And Texas is a mess to a certain extent. Don't know how to develop their personnel. But for Kansas to beat Texas and that talent says something for Lance Leipold. Again, he's got the toughest job trying to resurrect what Les Miles burned to the ground completely. And he did a nice job at Buffalo. Lance Leipold at number 9 in the Big 12. At number 8, we go to Texas and Steve Sarkisian. This guy's had 3 big jobs: Washington, USC, and Texas. He's done very little, if anything. Chris Peterson showed that you can win in this day and age at Washington. And, of course, that's a historic program that is top 15 to 20 in the country all time. And Steve Sarkisian was okay at Washington. We're showing you the records down below: 34-29, 24-21. There at Washington. USC, pretty much the same thing. Pete Carroll was, of course, one of the great coaches in history, a decade long of excellence at USC. And even those that followed Steve Sarkisian performed better. Even Clay Helton, although he underachieved, did better than Steve Sarkisian at USC. Now, we know of his well-documented off-field issues, but that's part of the deal and part of the assessment. Now he comes to Texas, pretty much inherits what you would expect to be an 8 or 9 win team, and he goes 5-7. Okay, that's his first year. He's building something. He's changing. He's changing culture, personnel. He's transforming the roster. He's doing all those things. So the 2022 recruiting class at top 5 in the nation, thumbs up for Sark. And the first 5 games of the season, although they went to Arkansas and got pushed all over the field, thumbs up. 4-1, 28-7 lead at halftime against Oklahoma. Looked like they were in line to take a big win from their fiercest rival and set themselves up for an appearance in the Big 12 championship game. Then it all came off the rails and went downhill. So Sark in year 2, prove us something. You've got your 3rd major job. Let's see if you can win and win big. All right, let's move on to number 7 in our rankings. And Neil Brown at West Virginia. Dana Holgorsen showed, as did previous coaches at West Virginia, you can win there. you should be able to win 7 to 9 games consistently at West Virginia. Neil Brown has yet to do that. 17-18 in 3 seasons, 11-15 against the conference. Now, of course, he did an outstanding job at Troy, lifting that program up 31-8 in his last 3 seasons there. Recruiting's difficult. It's a challenge at West Virginia. They're disconnected from the rest of the conference. Therefore, why would anyone from the neighboring states go to West Virginia? This is typically a draw of most state universities, is that you can schedule from the surrounding area and then you can recruit, because recruits will be able to play for a neighboring state school and be seen in the region. But that's not the case at West Virginia. So they've got a challenge with lack of high school players in the state, and then in the surrounding states wanting to play at West Virginia, as opposed to going to places like Penn State and Virginia Tech and Maryland, where they can be seen by their friends and family. So find a quarterback, Neil Brown. That's the challenge in the spring and beyond. And then recruit. Neil Brown at number 7 in our Big 12 coaches rankings. At number 6, we go to Kansas State, Chris Klieman. Following in the footsteps of Bill Snyder, who may be the most underrated coach in the history of college football. When we count great coaches and we make that list, we start with the national championships. And with Bill Snyder, no, he did not win a national championship. No, he did not come extremely close. But what he did at Kansas State, where probably no one could win a national championship, is astounding. Look at the records pre-Bill Snyder. Look at the records with Ron Prince post-Bill Snyder, before Bill Snyder took over again and had to lift the program back up. It's astounding. Chris Klieman had incredible, ridiculous success at North Dakota State with 4 national championships and 69 wins in 75 games. Takes over at Kansas State, pretty much does what you would expect a Kansas State to accomplish. 8-5, 4-6, 8-5. Mid-tier Big 12. Is he better than that? Well, we'll see if he can show it. Right now, he's recruiting in the low 60s, but that was the Bill Snyder formula for success at K-State. Our 6th-ranked coach in the Big 12 is Chris Klieman, Kansas State. At number 5, we go to TCU and Gary Patterson's replacement. Of course, Patterson has moved on as a defensive analyst at Texas. Sonny Dykes went 18-8 at Louisiana Tech to get him the Cal job. At Cal, he developed a really good offense with the likes of Jared Goff and others, NFL skill position players, but the defense he never was able to fix. He's an offensive guy. Of course, that's his legacy from his father, Spike Dykes. But he went 10-26 in the Pac-12 at Cal. Then he goes to SMU and was a pretty strong success there. 25-10 in 3 seasons at SMU. That sets him up for his second go at a Power 5 job here at TCU. And he's beaten the Horned Frogs, ironically, the last 2 seasons in 2020 and 21. Offensive-minded Sonny Dykes comes to TCU, and we'll see how he does. Right now, he's our 5th-ranked coach in the Big 12. At number 4, we go to OK State and Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy's pretty comfortable with going 8-4, and as soon as I kept saying that, and it proved to be true for a number of years, bam, he hit us with an almost Big 12 championship and almost college football playoff appearance. Mike Gundy took what Les Miles did, which we cut on Les Miles, and rightfully so, but he did build the Oklahoma State program. But Mike Gundy elevated the Cowboys program. And this time 10 years ago, after appearing in a BCS bowl game in 2011 and almost getting to a national championship game, it looked like the Oklahoma State program was ready to ascend and join the elite. But it's flatlined, and pretty much 8-4 has been Oklahoma State ever since. And Mike Gundy's been pretty comfortable with that, seemingly, until, again, last year. They put together a tremendous defensive effort under Jim Knowles, who's now at Ohio State. So that could prove to be a big loss, although Derek Mason is quite capable coming in from Auburn. So an offensive-minded coach in Mike Gundy is showing us something similar to what Steve Spurrier showed us at South Carolina. You take the fun and gun of Steve Spurrier at Florida, you take away his offensive personnel, He turned out to be a legitimate head coach that could run the ball and play defense and win that way as well. Mike Gundy's doing that in recent seasons with Spencer Sanders at quarterback. Mike Gundy's our 4th ranked coach in the Big 12. At number 3, we go to a coach who has never coached a game as the head coach anywhere in college football, and he takes over one of the elites, one of the blue bloods at Oklahoma, and that, of course, is Brent Venables. He's got no track record, but I've got him number 3 in the Big 12. I'm projecting here. I believe he's going to be an outstanding head coach. All the returns in the offseason, and I know it's the offseason, he has yet to get punched in the mouth, yet to blow a fourth quarter lead, yet to be embarrassed by somebody else's game plan. But Brent Venables, over a decade at Clemson, not only proved to be a defensive wizard, a genius, a guy that just about any acclaimed football coach points to and says he's one of the 2 or 3 best in the country to do that. But in addition to that, he was part of the culture build at Clemson. Next to Dabo Swinney, he was the guy. He was the mainstay, and the players love him. They love him not because he runs a country club, but they love him because he's honest. He provides guidance and direction outside of football, and he's a solid guy. Those are all the indications we get of Brent Venables, and I think it's going to pay off for him at Oklahoma. He's got a tall task in replacing Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley. The call is to get to college football playoff appearances, and there's a transition, of course, coming to go to the SEC. Brent Venables at number 3 in the Big 12 in our coaches' rankings. At number 2, we go to Iowa State and Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell prior to this season, possibly at number 1. You would have to check out my previous Big 12 coaches' rankings to verify that. I know at one point I had Gary Patterson at number 1, and I believe Matt Campbell in the last couple seasons. But this was a disappointing season for Matt Campbell. It was a letdown. It was an Iowa State team that brought back its starting quarterback, who had a ton of experience in Brock Purdy, one of the best running backs in college football in Breece Hall, an All-American tight end, Charlie Kohler, its best wide receiver, Xavier Hutchinson, one of the 5 best offensive lines in the country, playmakers on defense, and it went 7-6. It was set up for Iowa State to challenge for the Big 12 championship and a college football playoff appearance, and it was disappointing. Does that mean Matt Campbell's a bad coach suddenly? Absolutely not. He just hasn't shown us that he can elevate all the way through. The elevation has been impressive to date. When you take a 2 or 3 win program and you make it an 8-win program, that is something. It's pretty remarkable. Now comes the task of lifting it consistently, breaking through against Oklahoma State, Texas, and even though Texas isn't there from a win standpoint, breaking through Texas, Oklahoma, or whoever's going to be there in the future, i.e. Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, and UCF, to win the conference. Matt Campbell at Iowa State doing an outstanding job. Bit of a letdown in 2021 at number 2 in our rankings. That leaves number 1. And I rarely do this. Rarely take one success, one outstanding success, and blow that out of proportion to say that's the standard, that's who this guy is. But that's what I'm doing with Dave Aranda. What a defense he built and engineered at LSU. Then he comes to Baylor and he inputs the same defense, same mindset, philosophy, approach, and Baylor played the best defense in the conference along with Oklahoma State. And Dave Aranda turned a 2-7 situation in 2020 where they were losing close. And wow. He goes lights out with a Big 12 championship and a Sugar Bowl appearance and win. Dave Aranda right now, I know it's just one season of a breakthrough, but it's enough for me right now against the field in the Big 12 to name him as the best coach in the Big 12. Aranda at 1, Campbell 2, Venables 3, Gundy 4. At number 5, we got Sonny Dykes. At 6, Kleiman, Brown at 7, Leipold, make that Sark at 8, Leipold at 9, and at number 10, Joey McGuire. Prove it otherwise, Joey McGuire. You've got a head coaching job in the Big 12. Leave your comments and suggestions down below right here in the comments section. And, of course, like, comment, share, and subscribe at the Voice of College Football.